Hi, I'm Susan. Today I'm going to show you how to make a market tote out of these, well, what might otherwise be trash. These are bags that bird seed and chicken feed and sunflower seeds, all kinds of different products have come in. They can be transformed into reusable market bags that are very sturdy. These bags were designed to hold 50 pounds of seed, quite a lot of weight. So they are made out of very tough plastic, woven material, and they make really nice market bags. The first step you need to take is to clean the bag inside and out really well with warm soapy water. I have found that it's easier to clean them after I cut the bottom off, that you can then turn inside out and really scrub and rinse and then put out in the sun. Like a day like today is perfect to let them air dry. This is the bottom and this is the top. I'm just going to square off the edge along the bottom just because I want to make sure that it is pretty straight. I've got my bag turned inside out, and this is the bottom and this is the top. This is the part that I just cut a nice straight line. I'm going to make sure that the sides are together. So about a half inch across the bottom with a regular straight stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and reinforce this with a zigzag stitch too. So now that we've sewn across the bottom of the bag, we're going to work on creating its boxy shape. Put your hand inside the bag, grab this bottom part and fashion it into a point. And one thing that makes this a little easier is if you take these edges, the original edges of the bag, fold them back where they were. When you fold those edges like that, it begins to have a natural tendency to want to form that triangle. Make the point of the triangle line up with this line right here. And you're going to do that on both sides. You're also going to want to make sure the seam is lying flat in the same direction on both sides. You don't want to sew, we're going to sew along here. You wouldn't want to sew the flap going this way and then this side going this way, because then your seam is kind of sticking up in the air, doesn't know what to do. So make sure that it's all nice and flat. Both of my sides are, I think, roughly the same, but I'm going to measure anyway. I'm going to make a little bit of a line across here, so I know this is where I want to sew. So this is going to be a straight stitch right across where I've made my line. We have a nice crisp bottom edge. It stands up all by itself. So when you think about where you want your design to stop, I'm going to stop it probably right around here. That'll be the top of the bag and your handles will be above that. It takes a couple of inches, at least 2 inches folding over to make a nice edge and to get the handles sewn in. So we're going to go sort of 2 inches above this where we want our design to end, and then cut the rest of that off and split the difference, and that's what we'll use to make our handles. I kind of see through my bag to see where that design is going to end, and I'm going to measure a couple of inches above that mark what's left will be what we use to make our handles. So we have a little over 8 inches. I'm going to go ahead and cut the very top of this bag off because it's got some perforations from its past life holding seeds, and we don't really want those perforations. They might sort of weaken the end product. We'll go ahead and measure 8 inches up, and if you don't have 8 inches left, whatever you happen to have, go ahead and hopefully it's about 8 inches. Use that and cut that in half to 4 and 4, or if you have 6, 3 and 3, equal amounts for your handles. This part here seems a little flimsy, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here. Because when I sew this, I'm going to want a long strip like this. And we'll do the same with this one. And now you should have 2 long strips like this. So I have 2 equal strips that are 4 inches across. I'm going to fold them in half, lengthwise. I'm going to take my pen and just make just a few marks along that crease. Your next step is going to be to fold the edge in maybe just about 1/8 of an inch on both sides. I have folded about 1/8 of an inch all the way up on both sides, and I folded this whole thing in half lengthwise and made a very faint line. So the next step here, I'm going to go ahead and fold this so that it meets up with that center line right there. And I'm going to make a nice hard crease all the way up. We're going to fold this one so that it is not at that halfway mark, but just past it a tiny little bit. So that when you sew through the top of this layer, you're also going to be catching this layer and the folded under part as well, and the other side. So it'll make for a nice, if we do a zigzag stitch along here, it'll make for a really nice strong handle. You can also go back and stitch just a regular straight stitch on either side of the edge of the handle, and it kind of flattens it a little bit more, and it does make it have a nice finished look. So I have turned my bag back inside out, and we have 2 long straps. These straps are going to be, if you want like a shoulder length, something that'll fit over your shoulder. I will probably shorten my straps because I tend to like more of a bag that I can just hold over my arm or just in my hand. I don't really need all that extra handle, but you might want it. So this is extra long for fitting over your shoulder. You're going to take your bag, turn it inside out, and fold about 1 inch of the top of the outside down. And measure, I think about 4 inches in. I'll put the edge of my handle at 4 inches. And I'm going to do that on the other side as well, and just play around with it and see if you like where that looks, or if you want it to be a little further in or out. So now we're going to sew a straight stitch along the top of the outside of our bag. When we get to a pin, if you pinned a handle, be careful and take that pin out before you get there. I like to start on the side and just go ahead and sew and back stitch and go all the way around. See that pin, and the handle is in the down position here. And very carefully take the pin out, keep the handle in place, and keep sewing right across that handle. So we've gone all the way around the inside of our bag. We've stitched our handles on, and now we're going to fold this edge down again another inch or so. And we are going to sew along this top line here. We're going to sew these handles along this top line too. So it's time to turn this inside out and see how it looks. So I shortened my handles. The last touch that I like to do is a box stitch around these, on the outside of where these handles meet, just to give it just a little extra strength. See? I'll trim these off. This just reinforces the handle even more. I would say this is a finished bag.